A wildlife researcher in South Africa once watched a cheetah lock eyes with a tourist who had her back turned, and before she could breathe, the animal was already in the air. 3 seconds. That's the gap between a normal afternoon and a moment you never recover from. But this list isn't just about close calls. It's about encounters so raw, so strange, and so permanently burned into memory that the people who witnessed them said no photograph could have prepared them. One of these cases involves billions of predators converging simultaneously on a single patch of ocean, an event so violent that underwater camera housings have been destroyed by the sheer physical force of it. These are the 10 animal cases you will remember for life. Join us, and let's discover the most extraordinary animal encounters ever caught on camera. Let's go.
Number 13. Kenya road monkeys. These aren't the harmless monkeys you toss peanuts in a zoo. These are organized, strategic, and ruthlessly efficient. In Kenya's national parks, particularly around the Masai Mara, packs of baboons and vervet monkeys have developed what researchers only half-jokingly call a professional highway robbery operation. The setup is always the same. A tourist vehicle stops to take photos. One monkey positions near the front of the car as a distraction. Others move simultaneously on the sides and rear. Windows get targeted. Bags, food containers, electronics, anything within reach disappears in seconds. One tourist dashcam caught the whole sequence. A baboon yanked a backpack clean through a gap in a half-open window and was gone into the brush in under 4 seconds. 4 seconds! Barely enough time to process what just happened. Park rangers have issued warnings for years. The signs are everywhere. Tourists make the same mistake and the footage keeps accumulating. Here's what's actually disturbing about this. The behavior is evolving. Each generation is faster, bolder, and more coordinated than the last. Some troops in tourist-heavy zones have almost entirely stopped foraging naturally. Why spend hours hunting through the savannah when a Land Rover shows up every 20 minutes loaded with snacks? Scientists who study primate social learning call this cultural transmission, behavior passed between generations the way a trade skill gets inherited. What started as opportunistic scavenging has become a fully learned profession. And the monkeys aren't the only ones on the road that decided they needed an official escort to move through the city.
Number 12. Wild boar police escort. Most dispatchers have heard strange calls, stray animals, traffic incidents, the occasional bewildered tourist. But in multiple documented cases across European cities, officers have received something that generates a beat of silence before anyone responds. A family of wild boars demanding right-of-way in city traffic. This isn't a single disoriented animal wandering out of the woods. This is a full family unit, a dominant female, a male, and a pack of juveniles moving through urban streets with the confidence of someone who knows the address by heart. When officers arrived on scene in one German city, they quickly calculated that physically blocking the animals was not an option. A mature wild boar weighs over 200 kilograms. That's roughly the mass of a loaded motorcycle, built low to the ground with short, curved tusks that can shred through upholstery and flesh in a single swipe. So the officers made a decision that's been watched millions of times online. They positioned a squad car ahead of the herd, activated their lights, and escorted the boar family through the city to the nearest green corridor. The footage is both absurd and deeply unsettling, because what it reveals isn't funny at all. Urban wildlife data across Rome, Paris, Berlin, and Barcelona all point to the same shift. Wild boar populations are no longer being pushed into cities by human encroachment. They're moving in by choice, drawn by the calorie-dense reliability of human garbage. They remember routes, they return, they bring younger animals and teach them. The police escort isn't an accident anymore. For some boar families, it's already become the commute.
Only 1% of people know the dark truth behind what we are about to show you next. If you want to be part of the few who actually know what's happening in the world, subscribe and leave a like right now. Done? Look at this.
Number 11. South Georgia penguins. Most maps barely register this island's existence. South Georgia sits in the South Atlantic, over 1,400 kilometers from the nearest inhabited land, surrounded by some of the most violent seas on the planet. No permanent residents, no roads, no services, no reason at first glance to go there at all. And then you see what lives there. More than 3 million king penguins breed on this single island. 3 million! To make that number land in your body, that's more penguins packed onto one island than there are people in the entire city of Chicago, and the shoreline disappears completely under their mass.
The sound, by every account of every researcher stationed there, is unlike anything else on Earth, a wall of vocalizations that vibrates through your chest and stays with you for years. But the visual is only half the story. Inside that colony, something happens that scientists have spent decades trying to fully explain. King penguin chicks are left in enormous creches, shared nurseries where thousands of brown, fluffy juveniles huddle together for warmth while both parents are out at sea hunting for weeks at a time. When the adults return, they don't search visually through 3 million nearly identical birds. They walk the perimeter of the creche and call out a single specific vocalization, a sound unique to their bonded pair. Somewhere inside that mass of feathers, their chick hears it and calls back. Researchers tested this with recorded calls through speakers, and individual chicks responded only to their own parents' voices, filtering out everything else without hesitation. On South Georgia, precision recognition operates at a scale that makes every human crowd management system look like a rough draft.
Number 10. Wild wolf handler. Everyone carries a mental image of a wolf that looks roughly the same. A silhouette on a ridge, distant, wild, unreachable. That image does not survive what comes next. A woman sits in an open field. She extends her hand. A wolf, not a hybrid, not a domesticated animal, a full wild wolf, larger than a German shepherd, walks toward her, lowers its head, and lets her stroke it behind the ears. The clip circulated widely for a reason that goes beyond the visual. It produces a genuine cognitive error. Wolves are apex predators. A gray wolf's bite force exceeds 400 pounds per square inch, enough to fracture bone cleanly. Their default behavior toward unfamiliar humans is avoidance, or under pressure, aggression. What you're watching appears physically impossible. It isn't. It's the product of a precise, narrow developmental window called the critical socialization period, a phase between roughly 3 and 12 weeks of age, during which a wolf pup can form lasting bonds with species other than its own. Wolves raised in consistent human contact during this period can develop attachment behaviors that, under carefully controlled conditions, look almost identical to a domestic dog's relationship with its owner. Almost. Because here's the line that never fully disappears. This animal is not safe for a stranger. Sustained direct eye contact at the wrong moment, a sudden movement, an unfamiliar scent, any of those can collapse the entire dynamic in under a second. What the camera is capturing is months of accumulated trust and a boundary drawn in the grass around that woman that the wolf will not allow anyone else to cross.
Number 9. African white rhino. Wildlife professionals across southern Africa share a consistent answer when asked which animal they fear most on foot. It's almost never the lion, rarely the leopard. The answer, delivered with a calm that suggests it's been given many times, is the white rhinoceros. Not because it's the most inherently aggressive animal in the ecosystem, but because when it decides to charge, the outcome is nearly always the same. An adult white rhino weighs between 1,800 and 2,300 kilograms. For scale, that's heavier than a fully loaded pickup truck, compressed into an animal that can accelerate to 50 kilometers per hour in the length of a parking space. And unlike lions, which usually charge as a display, or elephants, which charge as a warning, the rhino charges because it has made a decision. A safari vehicle in South Africa captured what that decision looks like from the inside. The animal emerged from dense brush with no warning, moved laterally for 2 seconds, and struck the passenger side of the Jeep at full speed. The impact lifted the vehicle partially off the ground. The metal door panel folded inward. Passengers were thrown against the roof. When the dust settled, the rhino was standing motionless next to the damaged Jeep, not in panic, not in confusion, in assessment. Biologists who reviewed the footage explained that rhinos have a visual processing system wired differently from most large mammals, not blind as the myth suggests, but operating on different spatial logic. The animal was evaluating whether the threat had been neutralized. It concluded yes, turned, and walked back into the bush. Everyone survived, but the guide said afterward, if that had been a smaller vehicle, this would be a different kind of story.
Number 8. Tanzania buffalo migration. Most people who know the Serengeti know the wildebeest crossing, the footage, the river, the crocodiles. What almost nobody talks about is what happens when the Cape buffalo moves. Not dozens of animals, not thousands, hundreds of thousands. A single herd of Cape buffalo can extend across the Tanzanian savanna for kilometers in every direction, a living flood of black muscle, horn, and hooves that shakes the ground visibly from a kilometer away. Each animal weighs up to 900 kilograms. Now put 400,000 of them in motion at the same time. The dust cloud they generate shows up on aircraft radar at cruising altitude. The sound, a constant low rumble below the threshold of clear hearing, registers in your chest before your ears fully process it. Veteran safari guides who have watched this migration for 30 years describe it identically. It still stops all conversation, every single time. But the migration isn't just a spectacle. It is an ecological trigger that reshapes the Serengeti in real time. The buffaloes strip vegetation to bare earth as they move and fertilize it simultaneously, the regrowth they generate feeding the next season's animals entirely. Predator groups reposition around the migration's trajectory. Riverbanks change because the collective weight of the herd physically reshapes them at every crossing. Satellite GPS collar data collected over the past decade revealed something that forced biologists to revise their models. Individual herds are navigating using inherited environmental memory, route knowledge transmitted across generations, the same mechanism documented in elephants. The Serengeti isn't just watching the buffalo move, it's been calibrated to their rhythm for thousands of years.
Number 7. African Cheetah Safari. There is one rule on any African safari that every guide communicates before the vehicle moves a meter. Never turn your back on a wild cat. It doesn't matter if the animal appears calm, disinterested, occupied with something else entirely. The rule has no exceptions because it isn't about what the cat is doing, it's about what the cat is. A woman at a South African game reserve broke this rule. Not recklessly, but while standing through the open roof hatch of a safari vehicle to photograph the scenery behind her, back fully exposed to a cheetah sitting 30 meters away on a termite mound. The cheetah was in the air before she turned back around. The footage from inside the vehicle is one of the most widely shared safari clips ever recorded. The animal covered the ground in 2 strides. The guide reacted in time, nobody was harmed. But the clip doesn't go viral because of the near miss, it goes viral because of the physics. A cheetah accelerates from 0 to 130 kilometers per hour in under 3 seconds. That is faster than the legal highway speed limit in almost every American state, achieved in roughly the same distance as a parallel parking space. Its spine functions as a biological spring, compressing fully between each stride, then firing forward and releasing stored energy, propelling the animal well beyond what its leg muscles alone could ever generate. And it does all of this in near silence. No roar, no warning vocalization. The grass bends slightly, then the cat is already there. It's that final detail, the silence, that people who have watched this footage describe as the part that stays with them longest.
Number 6. North American Bear Camp. Fishermen understand risk in ways most people don't. They read water, they read weather, they know their equipment down to the margins. What no amount of field experience fully prepares a person is lying in a tent at 3 a.m., listening to something large and deliberate methodically disassemble their camp from the outside. A group of backcountry fishermen set up on a river after a strong afternoon catch, storing their fish-packed coolers in the tent vestibule, the textbook mistake that every wilderness guide warns against. A mother black bear located the camp by scent from over a kilometer away and arrived with 2 cubs at 2:47 a.m. The camp security camera captured everything. She tested equipment, she sniffed seams and tried zippers. She located the cooler, turned it with one swipe of her paw, and had it open in under 20 seconds. Here is the detail that people return to long after watching this footage. It isn't the speed or the strength that disturbs them. It's the calm. She moved through that camp the way a person moves through their own kitchen. No urgency, no fear, no acknowledgement of the human structures around her. She fed herself and her cubs methodically, then left with the same unhurried pace she arrived with. Total time on site, 11 minutes. The fishermen, motionless in their tents throughout, were never touched. But wildlife researchers reviewing the footage pointed to a pattern that extends beyond this single incident. This bear didn't stumble into the camp, she navigated to it. She'll return, she'll bring the cubs, and they'll learn the route too. What happens next involves something 3 times the weight, and it doesn't arrive quietly either.
Number 5. Windy Gorilla Trek. There is a protocol for mountain gorilla encounters in Uganda and Rwanda. Maintain a minimum distance of 7 meters. Avoid direct eye contact. Crouch to make yourself appear smaller. Never run under any circumstances. A tourist group on a guided trek through Windy Impenetrable National Park had no time to apply any of it.
Their guide had moved them slightly off the designated trail when the vegetation directly ahead parted and a silverback male was standing 3 meters away, watching them. A fully grown silverback mountain gorilla weighs over 220 kilograms, carries an arm span exceeding 2.5 meters, and possesses upper body strength estimated at 6 to 8 times that of a trained human athlete. When it rises to full height and holds direct eye contact, the human nervous system does not process the experience as data. It processes it as immediate physical threat. The silverback performed a short charge, stopping 2 meters in front of the group. Then it did something the guide said he had witnessed only twice in 15 years of leading treks. It approached one of the tourists, brought its face to within centimeters of the man's jacket, inhaled once, and walked past without aggression. Rangers who reviewed the footage concluded the animal was probably habituated to human presence through previous encounters, displaying curiosity rather than a genuine threat. The tourists had no way to know that in the moment. One woman stated afterward that she had been completely certain she was about to die. The reason the footage is permanently unforgettable isn't the charge. It's the intelligence behind the gorilla's eyes in those final 3 seconds of approach. Whatever it was calculating something specific.
Number 4. Bahamas reef shark. Experienced divers describe a specific thing that sometimes happens in open water around large marine predators, a moment when all mental background noise stops. Not fear, presence. A large shark enters your field of vision, and every thought you've ever had about anything else simply disappears. A marine biologist documenting Caribbean reef shark behavior in the Bahamas captured something that most divers never witness in a lifetime of logged hours underwater. A large reef shark approached the diver not in the wide lateral arc of threat assessment, not with the body posture that precedes a strike, but in a direct, unhurried straight line. It made physical contact. The shark pressed its flank against the diver's forearm, the way a large dog sometimes leans its weight against a person's leg. Then it banked away slowly and circled back. This behavior has a name in marine biology: tactile contact. It has been documented between sharks and, in rare cases, between specific individual sharks and human divers who have spent consistent time at the same reef locations over extended periods. Sharks possess a sensory network called the ampullae of Lorenzini, electroreceptive pores that read the bioelectric fields of surrounding animals with extraordinary precision. Researchers believe certain sharks can distinguish between individual humans they've encountered before based on bioelectric signatures alone. The shark in this footage had been photographed and cataloged at this dive site for over 4 years. Whether that constitutes recognition in any neurologically meaningful sense is still being debated. What is not debated is what the footage shows: an apex predator choosing contact, completely on its own terms. And what happens at number 1 makes this look like a handshake at a dinner party.
Number 3. Amboseli elephant herd. There are moments in wildlife encounters where you understand with complete physical certainty that you are not the dominant animal in this equation. A safari vehicle in Amboseli National Park created one of those moments when it pulled too close to photograph a young calf walking at the edge of a family herd. What happened in the following 45 seconds has since been analyzed in university-level wildlife behavior courses. The moment the vehicle crossed an invisible spatial threshold, one the elephants registered before any visible reaction began, the entire herd reorganized, without a single audible signal. The adult females, each weighing between 2,700 and 3,500 kilograms, moved into a tight formation around the calf. Not loose, not approximate, a compressed, deliberate physical wall, shoulder to shoulder, heads facing outward, covering every angle simultaneously. The matriarch separated from the group, approached the vehicle, and executed a full threat display: ears fully spread, head elevated, trunk pulled under. That posture is the biological equivalent of a loaded weapon being aimed directly at you. The guide killed the engine and reversed slowly. The matriarch held position until the vehicle had retreated to what she calculated was a safe distance. Then she turned, rejoined the herd, and they resumed moving as if nothing had happened. Wildlife biologists called the defensive formation speed extraordinary, complete repositioning in under 10 seconds. But the detail the tourists kept returning to afterward wasn't the display, it was what came after. The moment the vehicle cleared the threshold, the matriarch's posture dropped instantly. No residual aggression, the calculation was done. The threat had withdrawn.
They had been assessed, measured, and deliberately permitted to leave. And that controlled, deliberate precision is what makes elephants unlike anything else on this list. What comes next operates on a scale that makes even this look contained.
Number 2. Zambia Elephant Hotel. There are hotels in southern Africa that don't advertise their most striking feature. Not because it isn't extraordinary, but because there's no way to describe it without sounding like an exaggeration. In Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Botswana, certain lodges sit directly on ancient elephant corridors, migration pathways that herds have walked for hundreds of years, established in the landscape long before a single human structure existed anywhere near them. When the hotels were built, the elephants didn't stop coming. They don't understand the concept of a property boundary. So guests eating breakfast on the terrace or swimming in the pool look up to find a herd of 20 African bush elephants walking calmly through the property toward the water. No keeper, no barrier, no fence of any kind between a person holding a coffee cup and an animal weighing 6,000 kilograms. Elephants have spatial memory that wildlife researchers describe as among the most developed of any land mammal. They retain water sources, mineral licks, and travel routes across territories spanning hundreds of kilometers and transmit this knowledge across generations. One lodge in Zambia redesigned its entire layout around the corridor after repeated attempts to redirect the herd failed. The elephants simply walked through whatever was in their way. Camera footage from these properties produces something no zoo or safari vehicle encounter can replicate: an elephant and a human in completely unmanaged, unscripted proximity. No choreography, no safety mechanism, two species sharing space because one of them was there first and has no intention of stopping. Virtually every guest who experiences it describes the same aftermath. They stop thinking about wildlife, they start feeling it. And what comes next is what happens when that same force multiplies by billions.
Number 1. South African Sardine Run. Nothing in this list, not the gorilla, not the charging rhino, not the shark making deliberate contact, prepares you for this. Every year, between May and July, something happens off the eastern coast of South Africa that marine biologists have named, without irony, the greatest shoal on Earth. Billions of Cape silvery sardines begin migrating northward along the KwaZulu-Natal coastline in a mass so dense it registers as a solid object on satellite imagery from orbit. The run stretches 15 kilometers in length, 4 kilometers in width, and 40 meters in depth. To put those numbers inside your body, if you could pour the entire population of New York City into the ocean as individual fish, the sardine run would still be larger. And the sardines don't travel alone. Every major predator in the South Atlantic tracks this event like a standing appointment. Hundreds of dusky, bronze whaler, and blacktip sharks converge from below. Superpods of common dolphins, some exceeding 1,000 animals, attack the flanks with coordinated military precision, compressing the sardines into dense bait balls near the surface. Humpback whales lunge through the center with jaws fully extended, taking thousands of fish in a single pass. Cape gannets and cormorants dive from the air at over 90 kilometers per hour, hitting the water like biological missiles. At peak feeding, every predatory system in the ecosystem, aerial, surface, and deep, fires at the same time. Underwater camera operators who have documented this from inside an active bait ball describe the experience consistently. They say you stop being a photographer. The ocean is moving in every direction simultaneously, and you are a very small object inside it. This isn't a wildlife event. This is the ocean deciding to eat, and everything in it responding at once.
If you thought this was terrifying, you are not ready for what they found in the video on your screen. Click it right now. The truth is worse than you think.